We are live. And this week, as I had mentioned, I was in Naperville, Illinois. And one of the cool things about getting out there is you run into people that you wouldn't see if you weren't out there. So I ran, and while I was sitting in one of the hallways talking with some people that were also speaking at the e-learning and technology conference, a guy walked up to grab some coffee and he looked a lot like Mike Weinberg. And I knew Mike was in town. I knew he was in Chicago based on some stuff that and Jeff Bajorek were doing on Monday, which was the day before. Long story short, or long story longer, I guess, I said, Mike Weinberg? And he turned around. Like I just said it out loud just to see what would happen. And then he turned around and I got to meet Mike for the first time in person just the other day in Chicago. So we've updated the throwback for this week, and I'm going to throw back to episode 145, where Mike joined me on the podcast about 200 some odd episodes ago. Key takeaway number one: the majority of the sales population today is under mentored and under coached. Mike, we are aligned. And that was one of the things that we talked about on the podcast. For whatever reason, and I know Mike gets into it in a bit of detail in the podcast episode on why this is the case, but for whatever reason, are we really struggle with providing mentoring and coaching solutions to our teams. And those teams include both our new leaders inside the organization and individual reps inside the organization. The second thing that Mike highlighted, and again, near and dear to my heart, stick to the fundamentals. For whatever reason, we tend to get lost in over engineering or over processing or over creating new ways to go about doing the work that we do. If you're struggling, get back to the fundamentals. I had a conversation earlier today with some folks I'm working with, and we're just getting back to basics relative to reporting on one or two key metrics each week. Actually, three key metrics, but the top two are these ones: number of new deals created and amount of money associated with those new deals, potential money. So what are we doing from a pipeline creation perspective? And then the third number that we'll get into is more around pipeline development. How is that pipeline developing? Right. Let's get back to the fundamentals. Ask better questions. Engage with your customers. Ask better questions. The third key takeaway goes right into that, which is ask the hard questions. Ask the hard questions. And what Mike highlighted in the episode is make sure that the work that we're doing can be applied practically, or the things that we're working on can be applied practically. Let's not do things just for the sake of doing it. Don't do it because somebody said something about it on LinkedIn, or somebody posted about it on Twitter, or somebody wrote about it in a book. Ask the hard question. What's the practical application? So for the clip that I'll use for the Throwback Thursday, here are the top three takeaways from the conversation with Mike Weinberg back in episode 145, about 200 episodes ago. The majority of sales population today is under-mentored and under-coached. Stick to the fundamentals and ask the hard questions. Is there practical application of the concept that actually works with your work? Mike, it was awesome to see you earlier this week. Thanks for taking a bit of time while you were out there on site with a client. Great to meet you in person, and look forward to our next conversation. So how do you apply a lot of the stuff that we just talked about? Well, I think the key thing for me when we think about it is, number one, are we creating an environment where we're reinforcing coaching and mentoring and training inside our organization? And in order to be able to answer that question, I think we've got to define the difference between coaching, mentoring, and training. Here's how I look at it. Training is when you're delivering some kind of information. You can train on knowledge or you can train on a skill, train on new information. So, what do we know? What's new? What new insight into something? You can go to an event like that e-learning and technology conference and gain get some information around something new to think about, something new to start to apply. So there's a training component when you're delivering something new or reinforcing something that's already known. Coaching, on the other hand, is a bit more personal. And I don't believe that you can coach in groups. And I know there are a lot of people who disagree with this. There are a lot of group coaching programs out there. Heck, we might even start one. And that's going to be more of a group, more of a community kind of thing rather than really a group coaching perspective. And the reason why I'm not a fan of group coaching, or why I don't think you can coach in a group environment, is coaches help you see the thing that you're missing. They help. This includes like body position when you're on a football field, or body position when you're playing golf. They can put you in the right place. They have a different perspective of the way that they're looking at things. They provide outside observation around a thing. They help you see and think differently. They'll create an opportunity for you to shift your mindset. The way they do this is by asking questions. What do you feel? How does this feel? How does this feel different than that? These questions provoke thought, and they get you into a point where you can start to see things a bit differently, think about things a bit differently than you would have before. So training a skill, showing you how to do something, communicating the details, sharing a definition, training on a new process, training. I'm conveying some kind of information. Hopefully, there's some kind of learning that takes place. In a coaching environment, what I'm doing is based on observation and seeing what you're doing and how you're doing it. I'm starting to make subtle changes to help you level up, help you improve in a specific area, improve in the golf swing, improve in the way that you ask discovery questions, improve. Mentoring, on the other hand, is something completely different. Mentoring is there's this kind of back and forth relationship that happens between the mentor and the mentee. There's perspective that's shared on both sides. Mentoring is more about what's the long-term vision? Where are we actually going? What's this thing that I want to accomplish? How can I start to design and build toward getting there? Three completely different tools that can be applied to level up your organization. And many times people confuse the three of those. So I'd love to hear what your definitions are between coaching, training, and mentoring. How do you distinguish between those three? How do you apply them in your work? And where are you lacking, or where will you get better over the course of this next 30, 60, or 90 days? Coaching is one of the things I'm pretty passionate about. I think there's a lack in coaching that exists out there. I think there are a number of sales leaders, and I've done this in the past. I think there are a number of leaders who think coaching is showing people how to do something. That's a bit more of training. Um, some people think of coaching as actually doing it and hoping that people receive the message. So they see you do it, and then maybe the next time you go out there, you'll go do the same kind of thing. Coaching is a process. Coaching's very personal. I think it happens at a one-on-one level, and that's why I've got the game plan coaching available for folks who are interested, people who are struggling with clarity, people who are looking for a way to simplify the things that they're um, working on, reduce complexity so that they can define next logical steps and start taking them, and then assess whether those things are working. Again, coaching is a very personal thing. And one of the ways that I like to coach, and I'll coach in the context of interviews. After watching a discovery call, I'll ask the question, what what'd you think? What'd you like about the call? What went well? Where could you have improved? What would you have liked to have done differently? Both of those I'm looking at what's the level of self-awareness and how does the person think about reflection? Then depending on those things, identify some areas where we might be able to coach up. Um, if they miss on some of the things that I observe, then I ask some questions around those things. I don't just go in and say, "Well, when I was watching you do this, this is what I thought." No, I'll ask some questions, and I'll just say, something to the effect of, "Hey, when you ask this question, what were you hoping to get?" So, coaching, mentoring, training, three different things. Unfortunately, I think they're confused in the marketplace, and I think anybody who says that you can do group coaching, um, uh, might be confusing coaching and training. Hope you have an awesome day. If you know somebody who would find value out of this, please share it with them. If you have a question that you'd like me to review, please let me know that as well. Sales is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about your process?